To the next speaker. Next speaker is Dr. Sangeet Mittal. He is a driving force behind today's webinar of Retina. His main vision was to take young VR surgeons of Punjab as host speakers. Dr. Sangeet Mittal is presently working as Director Vitro Retina at Thind Eye Hospital, Jalandhar. He did his graduation from Government Medical College, Amritsar, and post-graduation from PGI, Chandigarh. He did his fellowship in vitreoretinal surgery at Shankar Mitralaya, Chennai. He was awarded Dr. V.T. Joshi Gold Medal for Best Fellow by Medical Research Foundation in 1997. He was also awarded Dr. J.M. Pava Best Paper Award by VRSI in 2009. He has won the Best Free Paper Award at Annual Conference of AIOS twice in 2010 and 2019. He has won Best Scientific Poster Awards at annual conferences of various societies, including VRSI and Punjab Ophthalmological Society. His area of interest is VR surgery. At Thind Eye Hospital, he has performed more than 11,000 major vitreoretinal surgeries. He is the first person in India to report the use of photodynamic therapy for intraocular tumors like choroidal hemangiomas and capillary angiomas. He had won the Best of the Show award at annual conference of EVRS, that is European Vitreoretinal Society, for 3 consecutive years in 2017, 18, and 19. Seeing his international achievements, he was awarded Ophthalmology Star of India by AIOS during its annual conference in February 2020. Now over to Dr. Sangeet Mittal, please. Patient as partners in managing DME.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for all these nice words. Uh, I'm going to present today a topic that was like what I will call this was a sponsors topic, but just try to do justice to it. The topic is patient as partners in managing DME, and there are three particular approaches when you are seeing a patient. The first one is paternalistic approach, in which the doctor is at the center, and that he makes an intervention plan, and the patient has very less role to play in this type of management. The second one is the patient-centered approach, in which the whole thing revolves around the patient, and this can also be sometimes confusing because patients sometimes don't agree to what doctors want, and they will have their own viewpoint. They will all try to mold the treatment on their own terms. And the last nowadays, which is the approach which is now now we are following, is a patient as a partner approach, in which patients are considered to be members of the healthcare team. And like all other team members, they bring their own unique expertise into the management of themselves. So patient as experts, even when I was doing my post-graduation, I remember the day when I first joined PGI for my post-graduation. And Dr. Amod Gupta, he was the head of the department, and I had gone to meet him on the first day. And the most important lesson that I got from him was on the first day, when he told me, not only me, but all the people who have joined at that day, that whenever you examine a patient's eye, don't look at the eye only, don't focus on the eye. Just you have to look behind that eye. You have to look at the retina, the optic nerve, the whole body system of the patient when you are examining the eye and when you are managing, and not only limited to the body system of the patient. You also have to look the environment in which the patient is living, about their relatives, how he is living, and all about it. And I think that was one of the best lessons that I received from him, and that was on the very first day when I joined my post-graduation. So patient is also an expert because only he knows about his or her experience of illness, social circumstances, habits and behaviors, his attitudes to risk, his values and his preferences. And doctor is well informed about the diagnostic techniques, the causes of disease, prognosis, the treatment options and the preventive strategies. And both these knowledges are needed to manage the illness successfully. To the diabetes, there are many risk factors, not only which affect the diabetic retinopathy, retinopathy, like the duration of the disease, the poor control of the diabetes, the hypertension, nephropathy, the obesity, smoking, and pregnancy, they all affect the disease diabetic retinopathy adversely. And and majority of these patients, the people with diabetes, they will have at least one comorbid disease, and up to 40% will have at least three, increasing the number of appointments which are required when the patient has to visit a doctor. And this was one study which was done by Kiss et al. In Clinical Ophthalmology. They published in 2016. And they found that the patients who have diabetic retinopathy, or even those who don't have diabetic retinopathy, they found that up to 20% may have renal disease, up to 1.5% have lower limb amputation. So all patients, most of the patients, they have one comorbid factor or other comorbid factor, and these things also have to be looked into while you are managing the diabetic retinopathy. Hypertension, we all know that hypertension increases the development of diabetic retinopathy. It increases the progression, and it increases the risk of developing proliferative diabetic retinopathy. And it also increases the incidence of diffuse macular edema. And controlling hypertension decreases the risk of progression by 34%. And it decreases the risk of visual loss by 47%. Again, diabetic nephropathy also the progression of retinopathy, especially the macular edema. And the visual prognosis is often better if the nephropathy is treated by renal transplantation or dialysis before we start treating our diabetic patients. Again, dyslipidemia also has an adverse effect on diabetic maculopathy, which leads to extensive lipid exudates due to hyperlipidemia. And just by controlling dyslipidemia, and this patient, even after 3 months, we did a focal laser first, and 3 months post focal laser, we saw that the exudates have migrated subfoveally. This was a very old patient, and then we did not actually treat dyslipidemia before doing a focal laser. And this was then even in PGI, various studies established that now we have to control lipids before we start doing laser. But even after, you see, even after focal laser, when we saw that this subfoveal migration of exudates, after that we started controlling dyslipidemia, and 6 months post atorvastatin treatment, the whole of the lipid exudates had disappeared and the patient's vision improved. Again, pregnancy also causes, have a 10% risk of developing retinopathy. Any diabetic patient who gets pregnant has a 10% risk of developing retinopathy during his pregnancy. And if she is an NPDR at beginning, it may cause progression and increased incidence of maculopathy. And so if the patient has an untreated PDR at the beginning, she needs an urgent PRP, and previously treated PDR usually do not worsen during pregnancy, but still need to be monitored. And one thing again, when uncontrolled diabetes, we know that when it is suddenly brought under control, it causes severe deterioration of retinopathy. And so what happens is the gynecologists also sometimes what they see, the woman is pregnant and the woman is diabetic, they will try to control the diabetes suddenly. And this time, and this sudden control may lead to deterioration of retinopathy. And the message needs to be passed to them that if they have to control the diabetes suddenly, the fundus examination also has to be done along with it. Again, smoking. Smoking increases the chances of diabetic retinopathy by 30%, and it can cause an irreversible blindness, and the patient has to be warned regarding this. And one of the most important factors is the glycemic control. And the two major landmark trials which had been done in respect to glycemic control were DCCT and UKPDS, and both have concluded that intensive glycemic control was associated with decrease in all microvascular complications. It had a 76% decrease in the risk of onset of diabetic retinopathy, and 63% in the progression of pre-existing diabetic retinopathy, and 56% decrease in the need for laser surgery. And it predicted that if we control the diabetics properly, then you may have 7.7 additional years of vision. Again, similar results were found in the UKPDS trial. which predicted that 34% reduction in risk of diabetic retinopathy progression if you control hypertension properly. So tightening of glycemic control may initially produce worsening of retinopathy, but it is always recommended if you are suddenly controlling the hyperglycemia, then you need proper monitoring and proper fundus examination at regular intervals. So coming back to this patient as partners, this was an average visit by a DME patient to all all specialists, not only a retina specialist, but to diabetologists, to nephrologists. And you see, for the first 6 months, 5 times he is visiting a retinal specialist, 5 times he is visiting an endocrinologist, 6 times he is visiting a nephrologist, 2 times a cardiologist. So most of the time he is spending in clinics. And this was in a 2016 study done by Dr. Sobha Siva Prasad before all this COVID era. And you imagine if the patient has to spend so much of time in hospitals during this era, it will be very difficult for him. And this diabetes care may be very expensive for patients in low to middle income countries, since many individuals worldwide lack health insurance, and out-of-pocket payments for diabetes treatment may pose large financial burden on these households. And this also decreases the compliance of the patient, because if he has to visit again and again to a doctor, he will try to avoid it. And the most common reason for treatment, this is one of the most common reason for treatment discontinuation, which was tracked in 57% of the patients. And either the patient went to another doctor, or and the second one was that the patient went to another doctor, or and 16% patients he met with an unfortunate end. So for anti-VEGF injections in AMD, the median injection number decreased from 6 in the first year to between 4 and 5 in consecutive years, coming down to 2 to 4 in 5th to 6th year, and again started rising after that. For DME also, they have said that first year you give 6 injections continuously, and then over the years you decrease the number of injections, coming up to 15 injections in around 5 years time for diabetic macular edema. But in real world status, what has been seen is, like, in overall population over a period of 15 months, up to 6 injections on an average had been given in diabetic patients. And comparing this with the DEX implant, the overall population for a mean follow-up of 10.3 years in various studies, they have found that only 2 injections, up to 1.5 to 2 injections are needed for overall population. So observational studies suggest that lesser number of injections are needed with DEX implant. And this is what the patients, this was a survey done again by Dr. Siva Prasad, and this was a survey, and she concluded that the most desired improvement to the treatment regime requested by 42% of patients was to have fewer injections to achieve the same visual results. And another things that patients that wanted was having fewer appointments to attend, less time spent waiting before the procedure, having the treatment carried out closer to their home, having free transport provided to get you an appointment. All these things were secondary. The most important thing was having fewer injections to achieve the same visual results. And so the treatment of diabetic macular edema with intravitreal injection therapy and the requirement of multiple and repeated hospital visits had a large practical impact on the patient's quality of life. And for the patient who needed to take at least more than 1 day off as per appointment. And majority of the patients required a care assistance around the time of the injection appointment, which total 6.3 hours of a carer's time also per injection. And during this pandemic era, again, this multiple visits may be very risky. Besides being exposed to the risk of the pandemic exposure, the other disadvantages of multiple visits have been studied, as I mentioned. And the majority of patients reported experiencing anxiety during this pandemic when they are waiting inside the hospital. And they feel that their sleep is affected. When the patients are asked when they come to the injection, they always say, "Doctor, I could not sleep 1 day before when I had to report for your injection. when I had to come for injection, I have a very, he becomes very anxious. And more patients with DME reported being uptight, having their sleep affected, and having reduced concentration when compared with patients with RVO. This was when they compared patients with DME as compared to RVO, how this multiple visits affect them. And so despite this multiple visits, also the intravitreal cost to the patients is again to be considered, because each injection, these injections are very costly injections, and this needs to be considered before prescribing the patient what you are prescribing. So to conclude that amid this pandemic, consideration towards patient and treating doctors, social distancing, therapeutic distancing, and quality of life, which have already been discussed in our last talk, is important. And for chronic pathologies such as DME, and considerations and planning for the entire year can be better achieved with longer acting intravitreal injections. Thank you.